You're listening to the second part of a three-part series with Rajesh. And in this next session, we will focus on Rajesh's career in IT and advocacy for inclusion. So welcome again, Rajesh.
Thank you so very much, Andrew. It was absolutely delight working on the first episode and hoping the same for this time as well.
Great. So look, I really want to talk about your recruitment experience at IBM and how the company's approach proceeded to accommodate your abilities and how it made a difference in your career path. Maybe you could give us and the listeners an insight into that.
Sure. Thanks. So you are actually making me remember my MBA days that I did it from Tata Institute of Social Sciences. I must say this, you know, placement season at any MBA campus is a very painful season or very dynamic season, if I may put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
And academically, I was very, very bright. In fact, I still remember many of the companies who came for the pre-placement talk, and they all used to talk about their first slide, I still remember, used to be equal opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But were they really kind of mean what they were talking?
Yeah.
I would straight away say no, N-O.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I had given up my hope after so many companies dejecting me because I'm blind. And that's why many of the Fortune 500 companies who did not even, kind of gave me a consideration to appear for their process. But that's when all of a sudden I got a call from my placement colleagues stating that, Rajesh, you have been shortlisted for IBM. And I was like, stop kidding. I was snoring actually, Andrew. And they were like, Rajesh, seriously, you please come very quickly. Right? And I said, please, can you stop all this nonsense? I know that I cannot get a job. I had enough. I have given up. And that's when two friends of mine, they came literally, they barged into my room and they literally pulled me out of the bed. They made me wear their, kind of formal dress, trousers, and they pushed me into the room of IBM interviewers. Now, when I was sitting in front of Shrikant NR, I will never ever forget him. I just said that, sir, I'm blind. How I would able to, kind of work at IBM? And that's when he said, I want to ask you, not that what you will not able to do, but how have you, come till MBA? How did you score so very well? How are you writing? How are you reading?
Mm-hmm.
It was a fantastic approach, I must tell you this. I explained him. And he said, this is how you need to do at IBM. Right? And I started seeing those positive vibes. And I was so very happy. And then, kind of, he said, you would be joining not in your city, that's Mumbai, but you might have to join some other city. I said, sir, the way you are showing me the confidence, the way you are showing me the interest, I have no problem joining anywhere in the world. And I'll tell you, when I joined IBM, I thought I may get some first 6 months, 8 months, kind of a training period or something. But no, right from the day one, I was given a responsibility. In fact, I must tell you one more example. I have so many examples to share. Sorry for that. But very first day, I mean, they gave me a gift. It was the biggest gift of my life. And what was that gift? So they gave me, the box in my hand. By touching and feeling, I felt it must be a sweet box. But when I opened, It was laptop. Now, I said, why laptop? So they all said, you will require to write, right? You will require to play email games. I said, but till date, I used to have a scribe. I used to have a writer who used to write for me. In fact, I told them, I said, my love letters to my girlfriends also been written by my neighbors and my friends.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when they said, no, we want you to be independent. I must tell you, my first email was only of 6 sentences, not more than 10 to 11 lines that I had written, but which I had to correct nothing less than 20, 25 times.
Mm-hmm.
Because I had never written before that. I never knew which keys are where. And I mean, IBM said that you have to start writing on your own. And that's where I consider this as the biggest gift of writing, because I always say that my parents has given me the birth, but IBM has made me the man that I wanted to be,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then, there was no looking back, because they never ever, kind of said that because you are blind, you cannot do this. So I remember after my first role of campus hiring, I jumped into training. I wanted to become the trainer.
Mm-hmm.
But then I did face some biases, not that everywhere I had a very, very easy way out. My then manager, who was supposed to hire me for the training, said that, Rajesh, how would you able to manage your class? In those days, we used to run face to face, not the virtual the way we are now.
Yes. Yes.
And I said, yeah, that's a good question, but let's find out. And I think, it took me a little longer than normal people, in the sense, where you and others would have taken maybe 6 months to get up, upskilled on particular course, and where I must have taken maybe a year. But I
Mm-hmm.
must tell you, when I started delivering training, none of my training, the face-to-face training, whether I have a senior execs, whether I have a campus hire, whether I have a technical people, none of my training never had a score less than a 95 out of 100, or NPS of 9, lesser than a 9 out of 10,
Mm.
right?
And it's an important thing to understand that within IBM, training and keeping your skills up to date is something that we never really stop from doing from the day that we're hired until the day that we leave the company. I mean, I'm still doing training myself. So that's a fascinating story. I mean, maybe you could share another specific role or project that you were involved with later on in your career.
Sure. So, I have this somewhere, fascinating attitude, saying that, okay, whatever I'm doing day to day, that's fine. But I need to also keep doing some other role which can actually, kind of navigate my career in future. So I was side by side, apart from a trainer, I have played various roles that I wanted to get into, like HR partner, line HR, learning consultant, accessibility tester,
Mm.
accessibility, kind of advocate, and many more. And I must tell you this. In fact, each of this role uh, gave me so much of rounded experience. I mean, I have been to 20 countries, right? I have been to, so many different sides of the culture, right? I have seen so many, different personalities, because of this kind of interest. And not only this, in fact, outside IBM, I do so many diversity related projects, right?
Mm.
So, so basically, I believe that if I want to see world changing, I need to definitely contribute towards that change. And that's where I consider myself to be the change agent or a catalyst.
Mm. Mm. But over that time period, and we're talking about 20, 30 years now, you've seen technology change significantly. You've seen the introduction of uh, different approaches that would have supported accessibility and inclusion for a lot of individuals who have been hired since you joined. And now we've got AI. Um, how do you believe the latest wave of technology that we're starting to see will support the promotion of the accessibility and inclusion for individuals with disabilities? What do you think is going to happen?
So, Andrew, it's a very, I mean, I don't know how to answer this, but for me, accessibility, the biggest accessibility is the human behavior.
Mm-hmm.
For me, the inclusion is the power of I, right? You know, why do I say this? I must tell you, in last 5 to 10 years or over the last 1 decade, the way the technology has revolutionized everything that I'm sure all of us we are experiencing today.
Mm.
But then over dependency actually not just kills the overall requirement of accessibility, but also it does questions the overall existence of the human behavior.
Mm.
I'll give you a couple of examples. See, today I mean, I won't say that technology has not helped, but technology sometimes can also create so much of, kind of problem.
Mm-hmm.
So today, every day, there are new updates. I'll give you an example. Just day before yesterday, I was trying to click on one of the link that was sent to me through email.
Mm-hmm.
And on my email platform, the Outlook platform, by default, I have set Microsoft Edge as a browser.
Mm-hmm.
That particular link was not reading anything because it was opened on Microsoft Edge. Now, I'm not saying that my screen reader is not accessible with Microsoft Edge. Please do not take me wrongly. But the same link, when I opened into the Chrome, there was no issues. Now, obviously, what comes to your mind? Chrome is better than Edge, right? I won't agree to that. My point is, there must have been some update which was required for my screen reader or with Edge that probably my system may not have done. And maybe because of that, I was facing this issue. But was I not irritated? Was I because not got irritated? Because I got irritated, did I not lose the patience? And sometimes when you lose the patience, don't you lose your interest? You do.
Mm-hmm.
How do I do that?
That's quite
My,
true.
what is the alternative, right? I mean, many a times people do ask me saying that, Rajesh, what is better for you, working from home or working from office? And the moment I say that, for me, working from office is the best option, they say, but don't you think, considering, kind of you're a visually impaired, I mean, it is good for you to work from home? I said, no. Every individuals are different, right? Everybody's needs are different. Example, if I'm around people, I have to help available. I can probably ask my friends, colleagues saying that, can you help me clicking here, clicking there, right? Now, that's where, please understand that, you know, accessibility is very important. I'm not saying that. But I think more than accessibility, inclusion is far more imperatives. because inclusion means understanding each other, empathizing with each other, right? And trying to, kind of build the bridges, not the wall, just because my system is accessible, right?
Mm-hmm. Look, I would love to do another half hour just talking about your career in IBM and more questions about advocacy. But unfortunately, we've come to an end of this second episode in this Let's Listen podcast with Rajesh. So I'd like to thank him for his time today. But you can join us for the next episode immediately. Just use the link. And if you have any questions, feel free to post them below. Otherwise, you can find more information about diversity at IBM at the link above. And always, thanks for listening to us today at IBM, and thank you, Rajesh, for your time.
Thank you so very much, Andrew, for having me, and thanks all my listeners out there.
Thanks so much.